When you were making it, did you feel like this is something special, or were you like, it is for us, but you don't know until you put it out there, right?
Yeah, I did actually within the first few days, and it was really because of my actors. Mikey and the gang, they were giving me such amazing performances that I remember about 5 days in, I was over at Mikey's place to discuss the next day, and I remember saying, I think we're making something special here. It felt special.
Know them, if you just heard their stories and you're like, do you know what, let me just get my notepad out, because there's going to be gold there. I feel like there's always gold.
Sometimes, yeah, most definitely. And I think I realized that when I first made that, my first film that covered sex work, Starlet, I remember saying, oh, there's a story there, there's a movie there, there's another screenplay there. So yes, but I never wanted to repeat myself, and I never wanted this to become a shtick in any way. It just happened organically. One led to the next, quite honestly.
How did you kind of feel when that was first kind of put to you?
It wasn't something that I thought twice about. I was really interested about and intrigued by playing Anora. I think she's an amazing character, very complicated, and she's a sex worker, but that's just what she does for a living. She's so many other things. So no, it wasn't something that I thought about twice.
And for like 28 minutes or something, like one scene, like you must just forget about all of that. So then how did you feel when you actually got to sit and watch it as a viewer?
Honestly, I remember everything.
Oh, really?
He doesn't, though.
Yeah,
but
I black out a lot and have to be reminded. It's go ahead.
No, but I remember everything, really, and but it's, I was really nervous going into the film because I remember everything, and I wasn't nervous about anything except for my performance or any like insecurity I had. I really just wanted to do the character justice in the film too, because I cared so much about it. So that was my only concern going into it, but I'm so happy with the film. I love it. And I love all of the performances, and it's a very special movie to me.
I love that you're like, I remember it all, that you worked hard on this film.
Yes, of course.
Because like how you could remember all the choreography and what you're saying and what you're doing in that 28-minute scene, I was like, no, we would need a jump cut. All the stunts and stuff, like it must have just been such a joy to make.
Oh yeah, it was so much fun. I mean, it was very challenging and difficult, but very, very fun and creative. And I mean, I got to work with so many incredible people, actors, and Sean included. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of a dream come true for me. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime role. So I was very happy to be there.
And everyone's raving about watch it. You're like, yeah, it won a really big award at Cannes, so,
I told my dad knew what the movie was about a little bit, because he's the one who installed the pole in my house, and then my mom would help me memorize some of my lines late at night. But my brothers, I don't think really knew much about it going in. I told them, I was like, hey, just letting you know, there's some nudity, things like this. My character's a sex worker. I don't know, that's their problem, really. It's not mine.
The fact that this won, I was like, yes, because it's almost like a bit of an underdog. How did you feel with taking it to Cannes, first of all, and then obviously walking away as the winner of the whole festival?
Yeah, well, just being in competition was enough for us. We were just so happy to be there. And then suddenly we're at the award ceremony and I'm receiving the Palme d'Or from George Lucas. It was my dream come true, and I'm still processing it 5 months later. Right?
My gosh, that was 5 months ago.
I think 5 months ago, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's amazing. I'm so happy for the film and for Sean, and it's amazing. I mean, I had dreamed of going to that festival my entire career as an actress, so it's very special.
Where does this incredible character came from?
Of Anora? The character?
Yeah.
Well,
Let's see. After we broke meaning the plot that broke the script. Sorry, this is like the first time I'm talking about the film, everybody. So bear with me. The first time when I got to the place of knowing that this film was about a young sex worker, what I normally do with all of my films is first meet with my consultants or choose consultants to come onto the film. In this case, Andrea Werhon, who's an amazing writer and has a book called Modern Horror, brought her on as our chief consultant, and started just exploring, character and what would make Anora and what would properly represent a young sex worker in New York City. But Mikey had so much to do with the development of Anora. I wrote the script for Mikey. When we first broke the idea, we actually had a meeting with Mikey and asked if she was interested. She said yes, and I said, okay, I'm going to write a script for you, with you in mind. I'll come back to you in 3 months. It took a year, but we were in touch that whole time. And as it was fleshing out, we were discussing the character. And so really, that's really how it began. Mikey really has so much to do with the development of it. So maybe perhaps you want to talk a little bit about it, about the character.
Sean reached out to me, and I was very surprised that he wanted to work with me, very excited, and I had never had anyone write a character for me before, so I was in disbelief that it was happening, but just accepting it and very excited. But we kept in touch the whole time that he was writing and talked to each other a lot about the character and what we wanted to portray, and so it was very collaborative in that sense.
What was your central idea, the core, the concept, and also how did you balance that serious, terrible subject matter with the comedy? Thank you.
I approached this film in terms of themes, not exact issues. I wanted this movie to explore different themes, and one of them is power, and levels of power, and power dynamics. And then also, yes, in terms of Anora, she has her power. She's aware of her power. She's in control, even when the world around her is coming down on her. And so, so it was really just about the exploration of strength and power. So thank you for seeing that. And then regarding the balance of comedy, I always think that humor is necessary in human stories because, hey, look, it's part of our lives. We all use humor to cope, humor to get by, and I can't stand when I see a film devoid of humor, or a story that's devoid of humor because this is not real. And I guess the challenge is balancing that. When you want to tell a story that is ultimately tragic, how much do you infuse humor and where? And so that becomes, a real balancing act along the way that I really have to give all the credit to my wonderful actors who truly helped me find that balance. And then, ultimately it's in post-production as well. But again, I just feel that without humor, it's not real. And so.
There are wonderful sex scenes in the movie. Where they are to shoot for you two, and for you, Sean, how did you approach them?
Sure. Just really briefly, as you can probably see with my other films as well, these aren't really sex scenes; they're more sex shots. So they're very choreographed. They're very blocked, and very much. I am obviously working with my actors very closely. In the choreography, and the development as well, to make sure that each sex scene or sex shot is necessary and moving the plot forward and different, and has the range of emotions in there, from perhaps eroticism, but mostly funny. I always look for humor in all of those moments, and these guys delivered. So I'll let you guys talk about it.
Yeah, we spoke about the sex scenes a lot because in the script it would say they have sex, and so we're like, okay, well, what would that look like? And so we would talk about different positions, and Samantha Kwan and Sean would like demonstrate before what they would want it to look like. So this position or that position, and
She's my producer and wife.
and so Mark and I would look at them and be like, okay, yes, we'll do that. And then we would shoot it. And those scenes were fun to shoot. And all of the lap dance scenes were very fun to shoot as well. Yeah, because the environment on set, I think, was just very comfortable. And after a little bit, I think I was almost too comfortable in those situations, especially walking around the club. Like, all the women are naked, and I was too, and it was completely normal. Like, I think that for Annie, her nudity is also a costume in some ways, and so to me, it was comfortable.
Yeah, and I want to add Mikey. She's a huge professional, and I'm very grateful to Mikey because it's usually you have to ask, can I do like this or can I do like this? And Mikey, at our first day, she said, you can do everything that Sean will said. You can do everything. You can do it. And it was like, okay. And then it was like, not sex shots, it's love shots. It's a concentration of love, of atmosphere of our set. It's like, oh, okay, one more sex scene. Yeah, it's amazing. It's not like sex scene. Yeah, it's just our regular day. Yeah, great. Yeah, okay, we can do it. Yeah, and thank you guys for this experience.
How do you find them? How do you manage to find people who are so perfect for their roles, which includes everyone in this table? Thank you.
Yeah, I absolutely love this cast. I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud. My proudest casting, my proudest credit on the film is casting, quite honestly. But if I went into how every single person came on to this film, we'd be here all day. But as you might know from my other films, I like to mix it with, experienced and seasoned actors and sometimes first-timers or sometimes people who have no aspiration of acting and I just find on the street. In this case, it was a little different. This is primarily, seasoned, experienced actors. All of my leads are here. And it was a really nice experience, to tell you the truth. It was incredible, because of just their incredible talent and what they would be bringing to the table every single day. Yeah.
She's so dignified and so strong. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Annie is someone who feels very far away from who I am, but I really liked that because it meant I could really completely create a character that's completely different from me in terms of physicality and voice and attitude. And so I had a long time to think about the character, a year from meeting Sean, and even whilst I was doing other projects, I was still thinking about this character every single day. And so I read lots of books by sex workers, documentaries, and we mentioned Andrea Werhoon, who was a consultant, and her book, her memoir, Modern Whore, I felt that her and Annie would be friends and that to me, I felt I pulled a lot from her as a person and her experiences. And then also, when I got to New York, speaking to other women that live similar lives as Annie, like Luna, who is wonderful in the film. And she was really generous with her time, just telling me stories about her life and her experience. So that was things I pulled from as well. But I think I also it was important to me that to make Annie very hopeful.
You mentioned power in the first question, and I was wondering, like, if there is a specific reason why for all your recent films the characters are all sex workers, or is it all by coincidence? Thank you.
Yeah, regarding, I guess, the last 5 films I've made centered on sex workers. Honestly, I didn't know it would go this direction. It was an organic thing. It came, I think, mostly from my research. You know, I made a film called Starlet 5 films back, in which I kind of was introduced to the adult film world. That put me in touch with many sex workers. I stayed in touch with them, became friends with them. But what I realized was that, number one, there's a million stories to be told in that world. And secondly, as I got closer to them and heard their stories, you know, it became, if there is one intention with all of these films, I would say it's by telling human stories, by telling stories that I hopefully are universal, meaning that anybody in the world can identify with our lead characters, at least on an emotional level, it's helping remove the stigma that's applied to this livelihood, that's always been applied to this livelihood, and one that I think is quite unfair. So I don't know if it'll continue, but we've already been talking about the next one, and it involves a sex worker. So let's see what happens.
Even if they are two totally different movies, it's impossible while watching your movie don't think about a romantic comedy cult like Pretty Woman because of the proposal Vanya does. So I would like to ask you if you had this movie in your mind somehow, and how did you work to be so totally different and from that movie? Thank you.
Thank you. No, interestingly enough, it wasn't until hindsight that I looked back. I was halfway through my edit that somebody actually called out the fact that it has similarities to Pretty Woman. You know, I grew up in the 80s. I think that probably Pretty Woman had an effect on me. But you know, I think that's, or maybe it was a subconscious influence. I'm not sure. But it was important for me to keep this based, even though I was going for using tropes of romantic comedies and stuff, it was ultimately, you know, important for me to then ground it in a true reality. Yeah, that I don't think Hollywood would exactly tackle.
Was it more difficult for you, violence than sex? Or was it the same as an actress?
I think it was similar, kind of. But yeah, it was important to me that I do all the stunts myself and that there's no body double, no stand-in for me, because I wanted you to see my face. And Yura and I didn't know each other very well, but he was like, "No, I want you to actually hit me in the face." And I was like, okay, this is amazing. I love this. And so we were really fighting each other, and Yura is incredibly strong. So I was fighting with all of my strength, and he was still holding me. So it was very exhausting to shoot, very fun. And yeah, I don't know if I'll ever have an experience like that again. But also Lindsay, who plays Diamond in the film, her and I get into a brawl, and that was the craziest thing I've ever experienced in my life, because we're literally, I remember on set, Sean was like, okay, so you punch her and then you grab each other and knock this lamp over or roll over this table, fall on the ground here, okay, go. And Lindsay and I looked at each other and we were like, all right, let's do this. And we did, and it was crazy. My legs were like jello at the end of it. Yura was literally like dragging me away with my whole body weight. It was very interesting.
We had a stunt coordinator on board, but I think he advised, and he was just so impressed by Mikey, Yura, Lindsay, that he was just like, okay, I'm going to watch them and monitor them, but let them do it. And yeah, they gave me gold.